Let's start with the Mets, who obviously news came down after our show yesterday about Scherzer oblique. He's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. The Mets will be cautious. The Mets, I think, are going to play this a lot like an NBA team plays in a regular season. I think the Mets, I think they're going to make the playoffs. We'll get to that in a moment. But I think the Mets will use Scherzer and DeGrom and be very, very careful. Yes, they want to win the division and avoid, and maybe even get a 2 seed so they can avoid a wild card scenario and go right to a divisional series. But the Mets' first option is to make the postseason. And if they can make the postseason, even if they have to play a best of 3, they got DeGrom and Scherzer pitching in those 2 games to get it started. So you got to love their chances. And I think the Mets are going to do everything known to man to make sure that those 2 specifically are raring to go and flying once you get to October. Now, that means that you need a big enough cushion postseason-wise the second half of the year. That also means you got to space September properly with the 2 pitchers. You can't let them be idle, but you can't go crazy either. So 5 innings to start, give them an extra day. Don't push the envelope too much. You know, there's a fine line there. Now you say, boy, the Mets, Chris, are going to do this. If the Mets are in a situation in this division where they have a lot of leeway, you bet your bottom dollar the Mets are going to do this. Because it's about October for the Mets. It's not about the regular season. They didn't spend $300 million, $341 million on Lindor to, get knocked out in the first couple games of a wild card series. They spent that money to make big postseason runs. They're giving Scherzer $41 million a year, not to go pitch against the Marlins in September. I can tell you that right out of the gate. So from that standpoint, if the Mets have a little cushion, and that's an if, but if we're going to get to that. But if they have a little cushion, I would think you would look like how Milwaukee handles Giannis, how the Celtics handled Tatum, how the Nets handled Durant, those things. 50, 55 games, do enough of a tune-up, and then have them raring to go in playoff time in the NBA. Same thing, I think, with the Met pitchers. Now, as far as where they are, they need to have a little leeway so they can do that. Right now, they're 26-14. They got a 7-game lead in the NL East. That's the first thing you look at with where the Mets are and can they withstand not having their 2 top pitchers on that team for the next, basically, couple of months. Maybe DeGrom back a little sooner. I mean, the division is bad. Phillies just lost 2 out of 3 to San Diego. They're very up and down offensively. Their bullpen isn't very good either. They blew a terrible game Sunday in Dodger Stadium that I thought would have some ramifications, and it certainly did, where they did nothing at home this week. You got to beat the Padres 2 out of 3 at home. I know the Padres are good on the road. You got to beat them 2 out of 3 at home. Phillies always been around 500 for about 3 years now, so I'm not sure about that. The Marlins are the Marlins, competitive, some pitching. They're going to win 73 to 75 games. You don't have to be a genius to tell you that. And the Nationals, you know what? As I said to you yesterday, trade Soto. So that leads us to a situation where Atlanta is. And, they're 17-21. There's probably a little, feeling out process without Freeman there on the team. So I don't know where. I mean, I trust Atlanta. I trust the manager. But I don't know if they're going to, be under 500 in August this year and get away with it and win a division. So I know you have to respect the Braves. That's the only team that I think will be in the mix in the NL East at the end of the day. And can the Mets have a big enough lead where they don't have to worry about them too much as far as the division or a postseason berth is concerned in September? And with Buck Showalter, they've been pretty resourceful offensively. Alonso's done a very, very good job. McNeil's played great. Lindor has not been unbelievable. He's bad batting average, and he didn't do a lot in May, but he's been productive in the big spot. Escobar is going to eventually hit a little bit. I actually think that they'll be okay. So I have a lot of confidence in the manager. Their schedule's tricky. Giants, Dodgers, Brewers, don't get me wrong. But I think at the end of the day, the Mets will be able to sort of do what they want to do with DeGrom and Scherzer, not push the envelope to get into the playoffs, but save those 2 for when they're in the playoffs. So that's item number 1 today.